Okay, picking up where we left off, we're still on page 519, talking about the risks associated from a business perspective. And we talked about how increased competition is very risky. It basically forces their margins, their profit margins, to be very, very slim, because everyone is competing equally with no matter how big a company you are, no matter how you could be a very, very efficient company or a very poorly efficient, poorly efficient company, and essentially the price is the thing that equalizes it all. So it forces you to have very slim margins, which is not good. But that's good for the consumer, but we're talking about from a business. But continuing on, let's talk about the risk from a consumer perspective. Well, security. Now, an awful lot of people just flat don't have the technical skills to be able to tell whether or not they're doing something dumb. Okay. So, for example, they can't tell for sure if there's a secure socket layer connection and there's a little yellow padlock or something that indicates that they're on a secure website. They kind of intuitively know this, but they're probably not that knowledgeable on how to make it happen, how to ensure that they're not accidentally connecting to the wrong place. So here's a story that I've told in several classes. I have some friends who basically say, oh, I am not going to put my credit card on the web because somebody will be able to steal it. And I'm thinking, so how do you order things? Oh, I call them on the phone. And I'm thinking, the person at the other end of the phone is typing their credit card number into the exact same system that you did or would have. They probably have the web page up on the screen. So as you're dictating the credit card number, they're typing it into the very same web page you would have, which means you have accomplished nothing as far as security. Okay? Okay. So, there's no difference in security between giving somebody a credit card over the phone and typing in it over the web in most cases. We asked that as a question before, and we might ask it again. The next one is privacy. Oh, I don't want to buy anything on that website. I'm going to get tons of spam afterwards. Yeah, it's possible. There's an awful lot of websites where, like some of those job search websites, that where you have to leave your contact information, right? You have to give them, like your name and address and maybe your phone number or email address or whatever it is, because the whole point of me going to this website is so employers could contact me. Well, when you do that, you kind of expect to get email, right? But there's an awful lot of other ones where I don't expect. I want to be able to buy a box of Beanie Babies from a guy in Cincinnati, and I do not expect to get emails from him or anyone else based upon that. So a lot of people are annoyed by all that, and the real way you do this to kind of alleviate this concern is at the bottom of the screen, typically, there'll be something that talks about privacy statement. Not all websites have them, but if they did, they would basically tell you what they're going to do and not do with the information that they're collecting. So that's kind of cool. The other is, from a perspective of a consumer, is, I see a photograph of something and I go, oh, wow, that's going to fit fantastic in my entry hallway. And they get it and it's 4 inches tall. Because they really couldn't tell from the photograph how big this thing was. Maybe it actually said down at the bottom that it was 4 inches tall, but mentally they had an image of what this thing looked like. And so they bought it and went, oh man. Now they weren't necessarily duped, on purpose, but they just had a mental image of what this thing was going to look like, and then when it arrived, it was not that. So most people want to be able to, fondle the merchandise. I put that in quotation marks. They want to be able to walk up to it, pick it up, and hold it, and kind of look at it and put it back down and say, yeah, I'll buy that. So that is kind of the risk of not being able to get exactly what you want, or maybe it's not the right size, or the colors. If you bring up something on the web and you go, oh, that's going to match that cushion is going to match my couch absolutely perfectly. but the colors on the screen don't ever really match fabric colors in real life. So you get it, and you get it, and you put that cushion down on your couch, and you go, oh man, that's horrible. So yeah, there are some risks associated by just doing descriptions alone. And of course, the way you solve that is, more photos, more reviews, relaxed return policies, those kind of things where you say, I'm sorry, I somehow I thought this thing was a heck of a lot bigger than that. Okay. The next thing the consumer is talking about returns. So, unlike a store, where I may go to the store every couple weeks, most people don't make trips to the shipping store. They don't go to FedEx store or one of those shipping places or the post office on a regular basis. So it's most likely going to be out of their way to do this, to do a return. Mainly because, if I buy it online, it's going to be such a hassle to return it. So again, how do you persuade them to spend their money online? Is making that return easy. My wife orders clothing from a company that has a return sticker inside the package. So she opens up the package, tries on the whatever, and goes, I don't like it. She stuffs it back in the envelope, seals it back up, takes the prepaid sticker that came with it, sticks it on. She doesn't have to call them. She doesn't have to ask them. She doesn't have to tell them, I'm returning it. Please deduct. She doesn't do anything. She just takes that, drops it off, a presto changeover, her credit card charges get reversed and everything. They made it easy to do returns. Okay. Alrighty. On page 520, they kind of changed subject now. And now they're talking about the e-commerce business models. And basically there's 3 business models, although they have 4, and I'll describe that in just a minute. So, and these are probably terms you've heard before, I would think. So the one of them is B2C, which is business to consumer. And so now we're talking about Amazon. This is the vast majority of the e-commerce. Well, that's not exactly true. A huge chunk of e-commerce is a business selling directly to you, a customer. So business to consumer. Okay. So Amazon is an excellent choice for that. The other one is B2B, business to business. And these things are probably things like, Intel makes CPUs and sells them to Dell and HP and all the rest of the manufacturers. So it's a business to business. There's no consumer. In other words, they don't order one CPU. They order a whole case of them, a lot. I don't know, a couple thousand at a time. So the shipping is different. The data volume is different, and perhaps I have one of those just-in-time inventory systems where as I'm building computers, it triggers an alert that I'm getting below the magic amount in the warehouse, and it automatically places an order for more CPUs to be shipped. So that kind of thing, business to business. And then, of course, you have consumer to consumer. This is basically like the eBay model, where I just cleaned out my aunt's attic and there's a bunch of junk in there, and I just want to sell it. I mean, I'm not in the business of selling junk. This is just a one-time shot. And so it's just me, a consumer, selling it to some other consumer. So Craigslist and eBay and all those kind of things. Well, there's not really a defined, business. And quite frankly, I don't charge tax on those kind of things. Like a garage sale. The state typically looks the other way when you're doing like garage sale things, because you're not charging sales tax on those items, and you're not returning those sales tax to the state. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about. It can't be a continuous business, or they may get a little upset. But if it's just a one-time thing, you're okay. They have a 4th category called business to government. But really, that's not really a category. That's just an example of a business to business. Okay. On page 520, they talk about electronic data interchange. Way back when, in the early days of computers, in the 60s, when IBM was king, we needed a way to have data from one system being able to be produced in a format that could be read by another. And because in the old days, everything was very, very proprietary. You didn't get a Honeywell computer over here and an IBM computer over here and expect the data to come across, because they were very, very proud of their stuff, and they didn't want anyone else to know how their data was stored. So they came up with this EDI. And EDI was like a suite of applications you would buy. You would buy like a little exporter on this end and a little importer on that end, and it converted it to a particular file format and sent it across the wire, and then you could bring it back. Okay. So that stuff has been around for quite some time, but it is not hardly used at all. This used to be big business. I mean, there's companies out there that just did this for a living, and that's all they did, was manage the migration of data from one system to another. That's all they did. All right, those days are gone. Basically, now everyone uses XML, and XML is a text-based system. And so I have data, I just dump it into an XML file format that we agree upon, and then we send it across the wire, and I pull it up, presto change, we're done. So web services and XML have basically replaced EDI. Okay. So the next thing I talk about on page 520 is, what can you expect? There's an awful lot of strange things out there. So here's Pew Research did a retail survey of online shoppers, and there's a lot of good stuff in here. How about this? 54% buy products online weekly. 54% of the people buy something every week? Wow. 34 agree that their mobile phone will become their main purchase tool. Maybe they're not there now, but they're getting there. Yep. So 67% said reading or writing social media and comments influences their online shopping. So if somebody else says, "Ooh, look at I got these really cool shoes," that's an influence on other people going out and buying those same shoes. There's an awful lot of stuff in here. I'm not going to go through it all, but I like this one. So 65% of Chinese shoppers shop online at least monthly, but only 22% for the U.S. So China is buying stuff online a heck of a lot more than the U.S. Is that pretty cool? I didn't know that. And I'm not going to go through all of this stuff. It's just tons and tons and tons. Some of the things they talk about in here is how much research do you do prior to a purchase? In other words, how much time do I spend on the web researching a product but not buying it? And then how much time do I spend, what percent of the time do I end up buying it? I guess I'll go ahead and show that. That's pretty cool stuff. It's a kind of goofy little graph here. So, okay, so if we can find that section. Oh, go away. I'm trying to do something here. Alrighty. Okay, somewhere down here, trust me. There we go, here we go, cool. What method do you prefer for researching your product? And this dark red here is online using an honest-to-God hardwired PC. TV, catalog, in-store. So online with a phone or a tablet is relatively minor compared to people running PCs. I would not have thought that. I would have thought if I'm researching for something to buy that I'd probably be on a phone or a tablet as much or more than on a PC. And it turns out that's not the case. Okay, this is a good place to stop for the 15-minute mark, and we'll pick this thing up again in just a few.